Hello, hello, wonderful friends. Guess what? It is Monday, and that means we are back with another amazing episode of Pink Pixels. I'm so excited to be here. We are now well into November. For many of us in the US, we have Thanksgiving on the horizon, and Christmas is perhaps settling in, and all of our other winter holidays, and even New Year's Eve might be sneaking up on us as we think about what we want to continue to change and grow and set for goals. It's going to be a busy season, is basically what we have coming up. So I love that each Monday we take moments to breathe, to have fun, to be where we are right now instead of thinking of the million things that begin to crowd our calendar and the preparation and the stress that often comes with it, that we get to be here and we get to connect and have real conversations. This particular month, November, is a blast because we're doing something a little bit more creative, a little bit more different as we do a series of Get Ready With Me moments as we dive into the world of cosplay. We get to learn more about the beauty, the art, the just entire space as it becomes so much more vast than we really realize. So many of us, like myself included, really just see the beautiful pictures at the cons. We get to see the gorgeous Instagram and we get to live vicariously through all the cool anime and video game characters that they bring to life. But there's so much more behind the wonderful individuals who give us such wonderful things to look at. So tonight we've got an amazing guest joining us this evening. So if you would all be so grand, so kind, help me to welcome Zeldaandfairies. Hello, hello, hello. Say hi to our friends.
Hello, it is great to be here. Thank you so much, Caustic, for having me and for having me on the cosplayHERs channel. My name is Zeldan. I am a variety streamer, but also mainly a Nintendo streamer over on my Twitch channel. But I also cosplay. It is a big hobby of mine and a huge passion. So I can't wait to talk about it with you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, here. So you are a cosplayer. At what point did you like, this title is mine, right? Like, how did you start seeing and owning that kind of identity to become a cosplayer?
Oh, that is a great question. It started off in like 2012 that I heard about this local anime convention called Anime Boston. And there were friends of mine that were into it, that were going, and I could see pictures and it looked super cool. And, I'd grown up watching Naruto on Toonami, all the fun, Dragon Ball Z, Prince of Tennis, all of that. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to go this year. It was my first year of college.
Mhm,
Decided to go. So I was technically a little bit older when I
mhm.
first got into cosplay, but when I was at home, I was also doing mini looks. I didn't even know were cosplay related at all. So I was always passionate about it. But the second that I put the costume on, I was like, no, this is what I want to be doing. This is what I'm into. So basically, it started in 2012, 2013, 2012. Yeah.
Wow. So we're coming up on a decade now. Happy cosplay
Mm-hmm.
decade-thon, decade.
That's what it is.
Let's just pretend that sounded way smoother than how it came out, okay?
It's fair.
Thank you. So, I mean, is it kind of amazing to look back now and think 10 years at this point where you began to where you are now?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a whole metamorphosis because I started off just taking old Halloween costumes and like turning them inside out and going, does that look similar to the thing that I need it to look like? Or I'd go to Forever 21 and like find a headband and turn it into a choker and glue a pendant to it and say,
Mhm.
that's a necklace.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So I went from making things work as best as possible
Mhm.
to sewing and making things work as best as
Yeah.
possible. So
But
both.
leveling, and
Yeah,
everything you bring everything with you.
with me. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So let's go ahead and get started in your process tonight.
Sure.
So you have plenty of time. Tell us a little bit about who you're cosplaying and how do we begin, right?
Yes. Okay. So today I'm cosplaying. It's almost an original creation. It's a Korok from The Legend of Zelda, from Wind Waker, from Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. But I basically made it into a Renaissance fair outfit. I took things that I've either accumulated over the years or I have gotten from thrift shops or made by hand. So like my mask is sitting, uh if I can, there. My mask is sitting right here that I made myself, and I'll put on later, but it's now become part of my decorations.
It
But
doubles. It doubles
it
now.
doubles. Exactly. It's multi-purpose. I
Yes.
I need I need my things to be multi-purpose. But yeah, so I have all of those things here with me, and makeup, plenty of makeup. So for me it starts off with the makeup. Usually I'll put in the contacts, but I'll put that on later cuz that's a whole thing and a half. But what I do start with are my eyes. Always my eyes. Even though some people with the regular makeup looks, they're like, "Oh, I do my foundation first and then I do my eyes." I'm like, "I need to do my eyes first and then I can clean up anything with concealer and foundation." That's how I do it. Cuz
Oh, okay.
powder, sometimes powder goes everywhere. It's sometimes it just be like that sometimes.
It's just a little bit messy like the rest of us sometimes. So we allow it to be and then we clean up afterwards. That makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense.
That's what I do. I know some people really, really, really like are sticklers for, no, you have to do your foundation first and then you're able to do your eyeshadow, and then like they figure out how to clean it up, but it makes me have less steps. Um and I don't know, I prefer it. And I use concealer um for my eyeshadow base because I don't know anything about primer at all.
Honestly, I appreciate you saying that because so many different things. It's like, here's 20 steps of 20 different makeup items to use to prep your skin. And I'm like, I don't,
I don't
which one do you use for which things and how many? So to use concealer that you also use elsewhere on your face, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
one less thing. I appreciate
Yes.
that.
So I love doing concealer first because one, it sticks well with the eyeshadow, but two, it also makes me have to cover up less up here because you use a lot of eyeshadow, and
Hmm.
like I have a little bit of darkness on my eyes. Very natural. Everybody has darkness
Yeah.
around their eyes.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to cover it with concealer first instead of just a primer, and then I don't have to focus on what it looks like up here as much. It's a nice clean base for me.
Oh,
Those
okay.
little tipsies from me.
But I
So
love that, right? Like it's like how do we create the palette, right? Like or the not palette, the
mhm.
canvas that we're working on.
Yes,
Mm.
that's how I do it, and I can hear makeup artists screaming at me like, "No, that's not the way to do it," but it's the way I've made it work.
But that's kind of the process, right? Like of always trying to figure out like how do we make it work? Where did you begin your makeup learning skills? I know some people are like I've just always learned growing up or I've watched YouTube videos. What about you? Where do you find your information? Because somebody will be like, do you just practice a lot?
Well, for me, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so for me, it started off with an ex boyfriend's sister, and she gave me, yeah, love her. She's since passed, and I love her so much. So I think of her often.
Mhm.
And she gave me a palette that it was old. It was an old palette. It was already old when she owned it. She gave it to me. It was already old, and I kept it for years. But that was the one I used, and it was like a rainbow looking palette. She
Yeah.
used to be like a makeup artist, and so she would do people's makeup, and she would do her own makeup, and it was amazing. So she was like, "I know you like makeup, so I'll give you this palette," and she did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Cooked.
don't know. She cooked. So I took that makeup palette and just started drawing all over my face. Like I was in college walking around with Goombas painted on my face because I very obviously had a life. So, you know,
I
I had
love that.
many lives. I was a gamer.
Yes.
So I started off like that, like painting things because I wanted to.
Mm,
And then doing things for Halloween, of course, and
yeah.
like doing makeup looks that look cute, or rainbows on my eyes,
Mm.
or any sort of thing. And following YouTube tutorials. There were plenty of YouTube tutorials. I can't even remember what I watched. It was like just an assortment of things so I could figure it out. I always had those palettes that had like the tips on the back of them that are like, put your lighter colors up on your brow bone and the dark colors in the crease. And then I just followed that ad nauseum over and over again.
To continue to learn, continue to
Yes.
create. But I think it's also interesting. Like, here's this beautiful color palette, and like, ta-da! Now you're like, I now have the materials I need to be the
Mm-hmm.
artist that I want to be. I also really love that line, like the multiple lives you lead, right? I mean, for gamers, that resonates with a lot of us. Like, we don't just have our what we might consider the IRL, like where we go to college, right? Take the
Mm-hmm.
classes, but we are the adventurer. We're the ones smashing pots everywhere. We're the ones in the battles. We get to live all these multiple lives, but you take it another step, right? In addition to it, you live and create the looks of these. What does that mean as it kind of taking your gamer life to the next level through these immersive, very creative expressions?
It I don't it's amazing.
Mhm.
It is an incredible feeling to be able to embody these characters.
Yeah.
Like I remember going to PAX East and dressing up as Sora from Kingdom Hearts 3, and it was Pirates Sora, Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yeah.
his version of the outfit. And I remember just walking around and feeling like, oh my God, I'm so happy. Like I feel like a happy character. I feel like I embodied Sora to the fullest that day. And ever since then, I just seek to find ways to feel like the character whenever I go about my cosplays. It's nice
Mm.
to be able to embody them and escape. Recently,
Yeah.
I got to go to an anime rave. I was invited as a featured guest, which was awesome in itself. But getting to go, I ended up taking my dad with me. And because my dad can be really cool.
Yeah,
He can
no,
be
it's awesome.
sometimes it depends, but he could be really cool. And he decided to dress up as his character that he loves so much, the Joker. And when he did it, he came back from the rave like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was like, I know, me too.
That is the most unexpected family bonding situation. Like most of the
Uh-huh.
time, I like maybe I might bring my brother to a rave, but the idea of like, you know what? I need to bring George with me. Like that would not be my initial thought. But I love that you're like, yes. And he wanted to partake, fully
hmm
immersed just as much. And
Yeah,
he
because he's like a nerd in himself. Like he was the
yes.
one he grew up watching Trigun. Like that was his thing. And so he spread that love, and then he loves Batman and like anything nerdy, that was him. My mom was the gamer girl, my dad was the comic book and
Mm.
some anime nerd.
Okay. So you get the balance, right? That's
Yes.
and together you are like the ultra, right? Like
Oh yeah, they regret their decisions so hard.
what have we created? But
That's
that's
literally.
that's gonna be exciting though for you to have parents that are excited and see like do they ever look at your cosplays and be like, I know them, right? And get really
Mhm.
excited.
Yes,
Do they
yes,
ever
my
make
parents really
requests?
like it. Requests? I don't know if they've ever made requests,
Okay.
but they've always talked about things they wanted to do themselves. Like my
Mm.
dad has always said, "Oh, I was the one who created Neo from the Matrix." They based it off of me. My clothing, I was already wearing that before the movie came out, and I
Of
just happened
course.
to look like Keanu Reeves. I was like, "Yeah, that's yeah." I mean,
Mhm.
he's not wrong, but like he's not he's not right though. He looks just like him, but
Yeah, yeah. And you may have
uh,
been wearing that beforehand,
but
but
I don't know if they came upon you like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. You're like, okay, maybe not the point of inspiration, but maybe you were still
No.
a trendsetter in your own way, Dad.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so what are we doing now? All right, we've got
Okay,
the concealer on.
I'm just trying to find the right brush that I need, a big fluffy brush to be able to put on green and lots of it. Yellow
Okay.
and green for the base. So I'll set the inner corners with yellow, green on the outer edge.
Okay. Okay.
And then there's going to be glitter on the inner corners as well. It's
Ooh.
going to be a good time. It's going to look great, I swear.
It,
It,
can
it
I
has to look like a mess first.
does it look like this?
Yes.
I like that. I think that really describes the creative process well. Like I we have to make it a mess and then we put it all together. That's
Yeah, that's
mm,
exactly it. That's
mm,
with any craft because I love painting stuff. Like I had to paint that mask over there, but you should have seen my room when I was mid doing it. My desk just gets full of clutter and things and stuff. You should see my closet. It's a craft closet. That's so everything that has to do with creation is a mess, but it just has to be,
yes.
I
Yeah.
think.
Just have more. Just and let it just fall out everywhere.
Yeah.
For the cosplayers tools, can I ask how many makeup brushes you have?
Yes. I have a few and I wish I had more. Like I wish like a lot of again things that I grab throughout the years and like I I put it in a Ziploc bag. It's not the most sanitary, but it does what I need it to do at the moment, you know? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure I can find a nice bag, but yeah, I have a bunch
Mhm,
of brushes to choose from, and then I use them over
mhm,
and over again.
mhm.
Um, and I wish I had more.
Yeah.
So if
Here
you have
for
any
the functionality.
recommendations.
Yes, yes. But like so much where like everyone's like, I've got all it. I love this honesty of appreciating mess and finding out what works for us. Like so much when we
Mhm.
see social media posts, when we think about our own life, right? We're so sometimes critical. Like, oh, I'm living in a mess. Everybody else in this assumption, right, has their act
Mhm.
together. Everything always else has a place. But for most of us, like we can thrive in our mess. We have our creative spaces that allows
Mhm.
us to develop and make it work for us. Mm.
Yes. I feel like I know that there's like an aesthetic that we want to have. You know, my
Yeah.
room's set up just so, but you don't look too close. You don't look too close at the wires. You don't look too close at everything else that's
Mhm.
happening back there because I can't. I can't do that. If I stop to fix every little thing in my life, I'll never get to do any of the things I actually want to be doing.
Yes. What a sense of
Mhm.
priorities that has to come with. And that's but that's so important. Like we even here as we stream, like we've chosen like this is the box you get to
Yes.
see.
Yeah. Thankfully, because
Yeah.
everything else,
Yeah.
it's nothing to see. It's not entertaining. This
Mhm.
a little like there's things to look at, but
Yeah.
everything else, that's where I live. I live
Mhm.
in the chaos. I give you the fun.
No, we don't need to share that with everyone else. But it
Nah.
is. It's selective of like what is ours. And that's also I think an important boundary like what do we choose to share all the time with
Mhm.
others? How much do we continue to reveal? Mm.
Yes. That is really valid, especially
Mhm.
like I also care a lot about like mental health stuff and that's another thing that you have to figure out the border of like okay, so this is who I am here. Who am I when I'm out there?
Mhm.
It's hard to say that I'm not this person, the
Yeah.
same person, but
But
I
parts.
am different
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what we choose to share.
And I think that's such a smart choice because, of course, part of cosplay is that process of sharing it with others. What has
Mhm.
been that process to actually, one, create different social accounts and create communities around it and to continually to engage in what people say and think and specifically about your artwork, right? It's one thing like, hey, these are family members versus here are internet
Mhm.
strangers and here are all their thoughts of what they like and sometimes not like about what you have created.
My god, it's so hard. And
Yeah.
it's something that I
Mm,
struggled with and continue to struggle with often
yeah.
because I know that like I keep my content creation life separate from like my personal life. I like to do everything very safely or as safe as possible.
Hmm.
And I find that I have trouble with sharing things like even though I'm making awesome stuff, like people
Yeah.
would look at it and be like, "Oh my god, that's really cool."
Yes.
I get embarrassed by myself for some like it's something that just it like I have if I have people that know me from high school, I'm like, "Oh my god, they could see me drawing on my face. That's crazy." Meanwhile, I was walking around with things drawn on my face. And it was something that I literally had to talk to like my therapist about and he was
Yeah.
like, "Don't you want to be doing this?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Then why aren't you doing it?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. That's something that
Yeah.
if I want to be creating content, I should be content creating. Like, I should
Hmm.
be putting myself out there." So it was something that I've always been aware that I need to do and I struggle to do. But when I do it, it's so rewarding
Hmm.
um, and a lot of fun. Like putting things out there, being myself, and letting people see me is perfectly okay. I'm learning that along the way.
Yes. Yes. That's a process to get used to. And I like that kind of growth that you shared of how you see yourself, how you want, and where you're going to achieve your own goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting thing these days, right? With social media so rampant of how much we have to do in creation and presentation of ourselves, right? Because
Yes.
it's massive to a big audience, and it's a mixed bag too, right? Like sometimes it'd be easier if we think like these are just internet strangers, but it's not. These are people
It's
like
not.
we may have gone to high school together, or these are people that I have work with, right? Or
Yes.
like so it's from so many different stages of our lives and degrees of intimacy, familiarity across the board. So we're managing, even though, right, we create barriers, we're managing so many permeable boundaries with different people all in one space.
Yes, and you have to keep track of all of that, and it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of mental load
Mm-hmm.
over and over again.
Yes.
But you're doing what you want to be doing, what feeds your soul, so
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it in the end. But it is something that I think not a lot of people realize when they look at it from the outside and see, the glitz and glamour of what could be content creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, but there's also people staring at you, and some of those people that are staring at you don't always like want the best. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's hard to read the intentions, especially on social media where it's hard to tell tone anyway. You're like, I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
interpret what these emoticons mean, and I think I understand, you know?
I swear that's a smiley face, but the
Yeah.
way you're using it, I don't
Yes. Yes. Like,
know.
and everyone interprets things differently. Like, even like with, I like to do like, yeah, that's awesome. But I guess that some
Yes.
people think that is like praise or like double high five. And like, sure.
I use exclamation points everywhere because I just want to show how enthusiastic I
Yes.
am, but I don't want people to think I'm yelling.
Yes.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm just passionate, I swear.
Yes. Yes. I often feel like my mom when I read her comments, like I feel like I'm that like you're doing great, sweetie. Like that slight like the same, even though I mean how authentic and genuine it is, when I see it on text, I'm
Yes.
like, I don't know if this is coming through.
I can't read it. Like
Yeah.
I can't I don't know what your intentions are, and I am
Yes.
praying they're good, but I'm slighted just a little bit.
Yes. 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 I'm like, am I interpreting this the way that I'm supposed to? There's no
Sends it to
way.
all your friends, like,
Yeah.
"Did I read this right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
You're
why
not
are my
yelling
feelings
at
hurt?"
them, but you're yelling to them with all the
Yeah,
exclamation points.
yeah,
Small distinctions.
nuance.
I just really want you to know this though.
Yes, yes, it's really important.
Oh,
It is.
we're just but it's a real struggle like as we continue and to do it
Mhm,
so much. It's not something that we can turn off on that same day. You know, it's just the same as where some people might talk about toxic workplaces. Well, social media is a workplace when you're a content
mhm.
creator, and there's just anyone. It's a public workspace that anyone can come in and share their thoughts with you.
Yes. I think the thing that I have started learning is that I can't group up every single person that has a comment. Because I often
Mm,
see people saying, like, oh, I get these comments where people say this or they say that, and I can't make anybody happy. But
mm,
I have to remember that the people that are commenting are one person in their one experience in their one life. And then the person that's disagreeing with them and saying one thing is one person in their one experience in their one life. Even if you have a bunch of these comments, it's still just like
mm,
it I don't think that it's completely a full it doesn't really reflect completely you as a person. Unless you're getting a lot and then you have to learn something. That's fine. Like if you I am not against anyone needing to learn something out of something that they their
mhm.
own behavior. But
Yes.
comments that are mean to you or comments that do not serve you in that way, it's one person dealing with their own life
Mhm.
that you don't even that they're going to forget about you in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're going to keep scrolling
Keep
immediately
scrolling.
after and not think a second thought around it. And I think you note that balance nicely, right? Because there are times where we have to decide who our audience is and who we want to give our attention to on that end. But it's also important to listen because knowing that we're playing on this public platform and we're putting so much of ourselves out there, right? There's a chance where we might need to learn something, that we
Mhm.
might need to check ourselves or advance and grow. Even if we're good, there's places where we can become better. So, looking for those opportunities and knowing when and how to respond to them can be valuable. I like
Mhm.
that. That's a
And
tough
having a
lesson.
great support system
Mhm.
on the other side being to be able to bring these comments to like, "Hey friend, this person said this about me. They said I'm ugly. Are they right? So it's nice to have also a support system to be able to come back on and be like, okay, no, you're not ugly, but you did say something that was messed up and you should fix that. Like that, having that on the outside is very helpful too.
Yes, yes, that's true. All right, first of all, your eyes are looking fantastic. The glitter, how do you
Thanks.
get glitter to stay there and not like bleed everywhere and then have
Eyelash glue for the most part. They still bleed everywhere, but eyelash glue is what helps. I learned that from a
Mm,
friend of mine that she also does it with like
okay.
glitter eyeshadow like in the pan like here.
Yeah.
She does that. She puts glitter eyelash glue and sets the glitter on it. And I'm like, ah,
Oh.
people are thinking things that I didn't think of, and it's very useful. It's very nice thing. Oh, see, I messed up right here.
No one
But
sees it.
I'm gonna conceal it. I'm gonna conceal it
Con
because I did my eyes first.
Yes, yes, right? That's beautiful. You're like, "I
Full
planned for this.
circle.
We know it's gonna happen, and we're okay when it happens because we can solve
Ex
this."
exactly.
But that's such an important thing. Sometimes even so I teach. It makes me think of how important it is to plan out your process and to plan to
Mhm.
give yourself space to make mistakes.
Yes.
Like if you're working on a tight deadline or if you the order in which you choose to do things, right? All of that can hurt or support how you're creating something and how it gives you room to grow, to adapt each step of the way. So I love that you're like, listen, this is why we do eyes first because we know, right? It's
Mhm.
going to happen. It's a normal thing. Everyone will do it. No one has, I've never done, a winged eyeliner on both sides that look the same the first go around.
Never. Never. Not in the history of man has it ever been
No,
done.
no, it's impossible. So I think it's such a smart takeaway, whether it's in makeup or anything else, just whatever you're creating, give yourself space for mistakes. And that will help you
Mhm.
continue and not get frustrated with your process.
Yes, I agree
Mm,
completely. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be creative at
mhm.
the end of the day. If you're not having fun, then it's not going to be something that's rewarding to you in the end.
Can I ask, has there ever been a time with cosplay where you did get to a point where you're like, I don't know if I enjoy this right now?
Is it for me, there was one time that I did not enjoy it,
Mhm.
but there was a whole series of, like, outer issues happening that probably was also part of it, but I had done a cosplay that I wasn't proud of. It did not come out how I wanted it to come out.
Yeah.
It was a character from Soul Eater. I think his name's Asuna. It's been a while since
Mm,
I've seen it, but
mhm.
he, has a black spiky hair that has like eyeballs on his hair, and he's like wrapped in bandages. And I went to the thrift store, grabbed a blanket or a sheet, and I cut it up, sewed those sheets together by hand because I didn't know how to use a sewing machine yet. And then I put the costume together. But when I did my makeup, I did very like minimal because I was like, okay, I'm a guy. So
Mhm.
when I do guy makeup, guys don't really wear makeup. And I learned the hard way that you can do proper guy makeup. There is proper guy makeup, and you can like now I cosplay as guys and I'm like, "Oh my god, I feel incredible." But back then I felt like
This
trash
is a different you're
cuz
like, I would date me now.
yeah, like I was recently a guy from Demon Slayer, the one of the big bads, and
Yeah.
I look at myself, I'm like, who is that? Hello. But back then to me, she looked very different. She looked very chapped. That's the way I could describe it.
Yes.
And back then, like it wasn't more of that my creative process would make me feel like I wouldn't be able to do it, but outside factors like the people
Mm.
I was with or how I was feeling that day. But ultimately, I liked it enough that I could come back to it even if I had
Mhm.
a bad day.
I love that. But that's such an important reminder. Like, again, when we do these things, like as gamers, we don't just exist only as gamers. Or when we cosplay, we don't exist as cosplayers, right? As a singular individual
Mhm.
or entity or identity, right? All of it is embedded in what else goes in our lives, the relationships we
Yes.
have, the anything, how we're living. Do we feel good physically, mentally, spiritually, right? All of those different
Mhm.
levels. Do we have healthy relationships? Do we feel supported in the places that we're at? And even though it's
Mhm.
not cosplay, right? In this particular creative space where you're there and you're sewing the material, you're doing the makeup, it bleeds in.
It does bleed in completely. Like, I
Mm.
was dealing with back then a really bad relationship and like trying to figure out how like where I stood in my place, who I was as a person without this relationship,
Mhm.
and how can I continue to be a creative person, continue to be an independent person, continue to do all the things that I want to do without another individual that had started this hobby with me.
Mhm.
But I determined like it's my thing. This is what I like to do. This is
Right.
what makes me me. And even if I'm no longer around the people that I thought I would be around forever,
Mhm.
even if I'm not around them, I'm still myself. I'm still the person that likes to put stuff on her face, draw on her face all the time. So, you just you find your way. You have to find your way and you have
Mhm.
to do it the hard way.
I like that. There's a lot of ownership behind that and choosing who you are and where you want to be in that. That's
Mhm.
difficult.
Mhm.
How do you find yourself to kind of create that strength? Especially again, you're putting yourself out there. You're having
Mhm.
all of life happen as you begin to try to form who you are. And let's be real, being a cosplayer is not exactly a traditional pathway. It's not like here's this easy thing and when you tell people they understand. Like it's not the same if you were to tell people like, "Yes, I'm a teacher
Mhm.
or I'm an accountant or whatever fill in job title there." So, how much harder is that to really come to terms with who you are and trusting that vision that you have for yourself and then also having to convey it to others?
It's so difficult. Another thing that I still struggle with to this day because,
Mhm.
it's hard to tell people, I want to do this. I want to be a content creator. I want to do cosplay.
Yeah.
I want to do all these things that are unconventional methods of either being able to sustain myself or that I
Mm.
just really like to do. Because, I have, the close friends I grew up with that are very different than me, but we still love each other,
Yeah.
but they're not cosplayers, they're not gamers. Some of them are, but not in a content creation type of way. And so it's hard to tell them, oh, I don't want to work an office job, I hate it, and have them not say something to me like, oh, but everybody has to do this, this is what everybody is made to do.
Yeah.
And when I get told that, or I hear my own brain telling me that it's the worst thing in the world, it's like, why is the world like this? I end up going very existential, going in my head like, oh, I was created to be this person that does all this stuff, I should be planting flowers in the wild, but instead I'm trying
Yeah.
to type on things that don't make any sense. It makes this whole chaotic thing happen in my brain that's not helpful, doesn't make me feel better, and just makes me feel like a complete alien. Like
Mhm.
I don't belong on this, whatever this is.
Mhm.
But it's I find that I have to. I can't not do what I want to do because I feel that pull towards it. I'm supposed to be doing this. And whenever things fall away, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. This is what makes me happiest and actually brings me the opportunities to do more of what I'm doing.
Mm.
I have to be honestly brave enough
Ooh.
to let myself do this because it's not an easy path. It's not something that people choose. I mean, people choose it, but
Not
I
as
feel like
many.
not as many,
Mhm.
not as many, but it's not an easy choice.
Yeah.
It comes with risks, but we still love it.
Mhm. I like that, right? You're encouraging, but allowing yourself to be brave, and how important that is in that process because it is. You're putting yourself out there, you're taking risks, and how you want to invest in yourself. And it changes the dynamics of everything, right? How you're understood, the ability of how well you can connect with others. Because let's be real, work takes up a majority of our lives. Yay, right?
Mhm.
And that then also becomes a big part of sometimes how we talk and connect with others. So when we take non traditional routes, that means we don't have those easy shortcuts of connecting, of conversing. And so others and ourselves, we have to do more work to make those relationships, to make those connections, to understand and empathize with one another. And of course, to support one another as well.
I really think I wish that the world offered more opportunities for everyone to do what they actually want to be
Yeah.
doing because you turn to people and like I said earlier, their response is, "Ah, well, we have to do this to be able to make money." But I just wonder what it would be like if we didn't have to make money, if we
Mhm.
could just exist and, you know, live to do things. What people would choose. What would their
Mhm.
life have been like? It's just, you know, I think of my great grandmother who came to the United States by herself to get money because we need to make money, and she brought her whole family over from the Dominican Republic. And I think about, like, she had two jobs. She was helping older people, like taking care of them as like a nurse or I don't know what the word is, but taking care of them.
Kind of like a
And
hospice, perhaps?
yeah, something
Okay.
like that. But she was doing that, and I wonder what she would have chosen, if she had the opportunities, if she didn't need to be making money.
Mhm.
If we all didn't need to be making money, what would we choose?
Mhm.
And I hope I would choose this, because this
Yeah.
this is a great time.
But that's part of how we dream, right? Like
Mhm.
how can we kind of pull ourselves away from the bounds of economic obligation?
Yeah. How? How
Yes.
can
How
we?
how do we allow ourselves to dream bigger? And that's part of the necessary process that we think about as humans, as a society, right? How do we define ourselves? What do we see ourselves as value? How do we continue to grow and push ourselves in what we value and what we see as the standard? Is the idea that, 50, 500, 1,000 years from now that we expect humans to be working, just as hard forever? Or are we
Ugh.
working towards a different idea of future, of vision? And how do we continue to encourage that? How do we try to value that in our spaces, that we look for balance, where we try to define and create what we think is a fulfilling life? That's hard.
Mhm.
Mm,
Incredibly.
mm. I appreciated again your honesty tonight as a whole, but also when you mentioned talking about like how you can get existential, because it's easy to think suddenly very big.
Yes. Yes, the panic is real.
Yes. Yes. But and so we're thinking about all of this. It's so layered as humans, right? We're complicated individuals and we're thinking about so many things, whether it's how am I paying my bills, how am I engaging people, but also what am I doing with myself? How do I take time and reflect who I am and how I fit in these spaces? And they're tough and it's easy to spiral, but they're such important conversations, so that way we actually get the chance to forge our own path and we get to look at the steps
Mhm.
we made and we said, "Yes, I made those purposefully. Those are steps I wanted and I'm glad that I took."
Yes, and I felt like I had to take, like, I don't think a lot of us have a choice. I think we're kind
Mm,
of pulled towards what we need to do when we need to do it.
mhm.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to do things out of necessity. Hmm.
Mhm.
I love this. I love this discussion. I'm going to pivot for a hot second and say,
Do
what are
it.
you doing right now?
Okay. I am blushing up because I don't know, I feel like the Korok is very elf-like,
Okay.
so gotta give it a
Hmm.
little color, a little
Yes.
blush, little happiness. I gave
Yes.
myself a little button nose with contouring, contoured my cheekbones a little bit. It's
Hmm.
not required, but it's a fun time to do. Um, yeah, it's a little pizzazz on it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so blush, and I don't even use blush. I use eyeshadow. It's just a pinky orangey eyeshadow. Trying to think what else. Um, next is I'm pretty sure lips next. Maybe mascara. But yeah, and then after that, it's pretty much go time for the costume.
Okay. So
Yeah.
talk to me and start prepping us about the costume itself. Right.
Okay.
The creation. And you had mentioned right at the beginning, you didn't sew, you were hand sewing then, and now you do sew? Is this like,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, who teaches people how to sew these days? Um, I would no,
That's
I'm
fun.
asking genuinely because I'm like, I wish. I tried making a pillowcase a couple years ago and I'm like, these lines aren't straight. Why am I struggling with sewing
I
straight
can't make straight
lines?
lines for my life. Are
Okay.
you kidding? I whoever can, I'm so amazed, and I need them to teach me because
Okay.
I still don't know. You
Okay.
should never look inside what I sew because it's a hot mess.
No one needs
But
to see that part, right? Yeah.
no, only if you're competing. Only if you're competing, people have to see that part, and I'm like, don't look at me. Don't. I'm, I did not come here for this scrutiny. I wanted to win.
Judge easy there, okay? It's the visual
Please.
demonstration.
But no, it matters to them. So one day I'll figure it out and compete maybe. But to when I learned how to sew, it first started off because my dad knows how to sew, which is also another unconventional thing. My
Dang.
dad was the one that took, I think he was like in a tech school, and so he was able to learn because he took tech courses, but he actually really liked it. And like he's the type that's like, I really wish I went to design school. I really wish that I learned how to make perfumes. Like he really likes aesthetic things.
Mhm.
Like that's just his jam.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of that stuff, that creativity from him.
Aw.
But when I learned how to sew, it was in college. There was a course on, like, it was a course for that fulfilled the math requirement. And I was like, a math requirement? I do not want to take math. If I only have to take one math class and it's this, I would love it. It was a hybrid class that taught woodworking, um, and as well as wiring and sewing. So
Oh,
it split up the semester in three where you
okay.
did each of those. So I learned a little bit of woodworking, learned a little bit of wiring, and then learned how to sew.
Mhm.
And the sewing one I took with me. That was the one I was like, okay, that's mine. Thank you. I even went up to the teacher that I had and was like, I have a convention coming up, and I wanted to know if you could help me adjust these things that I bought into what I need. And she was like, yeah. And she kind of did it for me instead, and I watched, but
Yeah.
it having me watch her was very helpful. Like, okay, I can do this. This
Mhm.
is how it's happening in real time. Somebody
Mm.
professional showing me how to do it.
Yeah.
I can do this too. And we
Yes.
already had the sewing machine at home. So then I could be like, oh, dad, how the frick do I thread this thing? And then, it was nice to have a little bit of somebody to fall back on. So I got
Yes.
lucky in that regard.
Mhm.
But I continued and tried my best.
It's not just luck. Like, yes, it's nice that you had individuals in your space in your life who could show you that you had the resources, but it's also the opportunity, right? You saw it there.
Mhm.
How many? I mean, I grew up in a household with a sewing machine. I have sewed some things. They just didn't turn
Yeah.
out great, right? But like, but it's a choice, right? Like, I also made the choice not to continue to try to learn more and work on it from my grandmother or my mother, right? It was a choice
Mhm.
that I decided I'm going to do something else. And so I love, right? There is a little hint of luck, but it's also a big part of it is you decided to say, I want to learn this. I'm going to. I'm
Yes.
going to figure this out. I'm going to be able to
Yes.
sew better pillowcases or.
Like that's so real because when I was a kid, I remember I was in middle school and I was writing I
Mhm,
just I was overprotected as a kid, so I wasn't allowed to go out anywhere.
mhm,
So I would often just entertain myself. Either it was video games or art. And that was pretty much it for me. I didn't get to see like a lot of friends outside of school.
mhm.
So when I was in school, I continue having that creative spark in my brain. And I would make little magazines. I would fold up pieces of grid paper, draw this model on the outside, and then flip open, and then like it's like, oh, what she was wearing, and like putting like just it was silly and
I
it was
love it.
fun and it
I'd
was
love to
like
see it now.
I have them somewhere. I still have
I
them.
wish we had this show and tell.
Maybe next time.
Okay. Don't forget this, all right?
All right, I'll keep it. I'll keep that under my belt. But I had these little things and I loved them so much. And one day a
Mhm.
teacher came up and was like, "Oh, this is what you're working on," and ripped one of them in front of me, which was so character building. So good.
I mean, yeah,
But
love that for your book, right? Where you get to have a growth moment, but like, why? Who,
why?
yeah, what a
I
sour teacher. What in the
he
world?
he was a great guy. But I do still have them to this day that I look back on and I'm like, oh yes, back then I drew up designs for characters and I loved how they looked and I loved how I designed them. I was like, I would wear this. When I look back now, I'm like, maybe not, or somebody did that. That
Yeah.
exists already.
Hmm.
But now I can make those things. Now I can do that. So it's a full circle moment for me as a kid making those in my class because I had no friends to now.
Yes. Yes. The growth, the determination. And I hate that you
Mhm.
had that bad teacher moment, but it's kind of funny how sometimes, while it's great to have people in your corner, it's also really nice to have the people you
Haters.
don't like. Yeah. Like in the wrong, like in the opposite to motivate because
Yeah.
it's easy for us for whatever reason to want to dismiss the kindness of others, the support of those closest to us. But when
Mhm.
it's somebody who we already don't like and they're like, you can't do this, you're like, just you, okay, now you have put all the fuel in my engine. We are ready to go. I'm going to show you. Fuel in
I'm
my
gonna
engine,
be
fuel doesn't go in an
wholeheartedly
engine like
myself.
that. But yeah. Right? But yeah, we
Mhm.
now have a new motivation, a new approach, and it's weird what emotions allow us to feel motivated sometimes, but it allows us also to recognize that we need a lot of emotion. Sometimes it's not just happy or excited that gets us into projects.
Yes. Sometimes it's somebody screwing up our whole day.
Yes. Yes. Now that lip color is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. That's I'm pretty sure it's Miss Fenty
Okay.
matte lipstick.
Mhm. Mhm.
I Third Date. It's called Third Date, and I
Okay.
love it. I use it every day. This is my everyday
You're
lipstick,
like,
and
love it.
mhm. It does the job. Cute berry-ish color.
How
That's my vibe.
what are makeup things that are okay to go on lesser quality and which ones are you like, listen, just make sure you buy safe, good quality pieces on. I look at them like those palettes look like they've got pretty colors. That lipstick looks interesting on the model, right? But I have
Oh,
no idea like what's worth it or not until I put it on. I'm like, this is
yes.
not good.
That's kind of the vibe because it's like, all right, I had a for years I had a Sephora lipstick,
Yeah.
and that's like, like a regular Sephora lipstick. It
Hmm.
did the job. I
Yeah.
wore it for cosplays. It was a nudie lipstick that I
Hmm.
mixed a little bit of brown eyeshadow because I needed more nude, but it did the job that I needed it to do, and it felt good, and I wore it often.
Hmm.
But I went to go use a Sephora eyeshadow,
Yeah.
and it was gone the second I put it on. So
You're like, great. Love that
it's
for
a
me.
little bit of a right. It's so great. It's just it's trial and error. Like there are just certain things that work out and it's nice, and then there are other things that just don't. They don't, unfortunately, and hopefully you kept your receipt.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, okay, well, that wasn't what I wanted. Okay. So at
No,
least there's
not
no
at
like
all.
magic, like, hey, here are the rules. Never do this. Okay.
No, I think we can't follow the rules with makeup. Or if
Yeah.
anything, it we make our own rules. It's our own faces. We know that some things can look good and some things can look bad, but outside of that, you're free to play around with anything,
Yeah.
everything. That's how the new trends happen. You do something weird. Like there was a trend going around on TikTok that people were putting mascara at the bottom of their like eyes, like here, like nice and messily, just really, really messily, but like it adds an edgy touch. It's fun.
Oh.
Some people it really works on. Or puppy liner that people figured out instead of doing the regular cat eyeliner, they do downturned because it suits their eyes better. So
Oh.
you find things out from other people that tried something and it works. I don't know. Things can work.
I feel like I'm not getting enough of these makeup videos now because I'm like, puppy eyeliner. What? I'm like,
Yes.
the doors are opening. More opportunities now are ahead. I'm like, okay.
The puppy liner is really cute. It's really cute.
But I like this because it's more discussion for different eye shapes is what I'm imagining. Like, okay, now
Yes.
you realize like, oh, cat eye isn't for everyone. You can try it, but
No.
there might be other looks that are more fit for you. And
Yes.
I imagine a lot of this comes about because we're seeing more diversity in our makeup creators as well.
Mhm.
And
I
they're
learned
yeah, they're
yeah.
wanting more diverse audiences to use their makeup.
Yes, I've learned recently too, like some people have a fold here, have a fold in their eye
Yeah.
right here that I didn't know about. And I'm realizing, oh my God, one of my eyes has a little bit more of a fold here than another because I'm able to see these creators that have these
Mhm.
features on them that are uniquely theirs or uniquely part of their culture. And we can note these things, learn them, and be able to apply them in the future. Like, I can't do inner corner quite perfectly, but this person does it this way, and I've learned how to do it that way.
Okay, that's another new thing I didn't know about. Now I'm wondering, like, because I've never been able to figure out how to do the cool inner eye things, and I'm like,
It's
maybe that's me.
maybe.
Maybe I've been watching all the wrong tutorials, but like, yeah, it's just this easy. I'm like, it's not, but it's not for me. It
It's
never looks the
not.
same. Okay.
We learn a lot. I love having access to so much information. I
Hmm.
love learning. And
Yeah.
so having like the ability, I mean, it's not always good information, but
Hmm.
there's a lot of good information about other people that can be really helpful
Yes,
on TikTok,
that's true.
honestly.
That's true. Now, some of your cosplay part, like makeup, there's a lot of great tutorials, but some of the cosplay, you are kind of trekking in new territory depending on the materials you use and the looks you want to create. How do you deal with those moments where you create something you're like, that is not what I pictured in my head, but how do we move forward from that? Like, 'cause
Oh,
that's for me when it comes to drawing. I'm like, that is not what I pictured that horse to look like, but that is how I've decided to draw a
at
horse, I
least with
guess.
drawing, like you can erase it because I also draw and like
Yeah.
erasing it, awesome, and using
Hmm.
a tablet and drawing, you can click undo,
Hmm.
but oh my god, when you're sewing and you accidentally sew something shut that you didn't mean to shut, and you have
Yeah.
to take a seam ripper and just undo everything you did, oh, it's awful. There's also times where you think you have enough fabric, and then you
Yeah.
sew it together, and suddenly your arms are just stuck, and you can't do anything with what you just made. Like, oh, this is great if I take a picture and I look awkward in it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not gonna do what I need it like, you sometimes you really do have to just kind of scrap it and not beat yourself up too much about it because you know, you learned something in the end. It stinks and it costs money,
Yeah.
but, that's why you buy more fabric than you think you need, and then you have scraps of fabric in your closet forever
Hmm.
that you have excess.
You start to
Excess
become
is
your
better.
own fabric store eventually.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I made a Nezuko, you know Nezuko from Demon Slayer.
Yes.
She has like a black outer layer of an outfit. Like it's kind of like a robe that
Hmm.
doesn't close.
Yes.
I just took scrap fabric and I made that and it looked good for the day,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day there's like bits of like fabric all over my clothes and like it wasn't perfect. It did the job that I needed it to do for the day, but
Hmm.
it did not it did not come out how I wanted it to. But also, you know, I know that I didn't put my
Hmm.
whole what I could have done. I could have found a pattern. I could have looked up a tutorial online, but I was like, "No, I'll just scrap this together and it's gonna be great."
Yeah.
Uh, but that's not always how it works. It's never completely 100% perfect.
That's fair. That's fair. And most of the time when we see that, right, on our own, personally for our own work, when we go like, that's not perfect, others aren't going to notice that as much.
No, not at all. They're like,
Hmm.
How did you do that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it's a mess."
You don't want to do it this way, but here's how I did it. So you can cross it
Yes,
off.
yes, exactly.
It worked for one day. And if you just need it for one day and you're not worried about taking it anywhere else, perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it.
So what is the reusability of your cosplays? Do you typically build to say like I want to build this and I could put it on wherever, or is it a one time, here we go?
I hope it lasts.
Yeah.
I build it thinking it'll last and praying that it lasts,
Yeah.
but if it falls apart, it's like, well, like there's my Sophis cosplay. It's the one that I wear. It's a huge blue dress, and it
Mhm.
and her hair. She has a long green wig and it's two ponytails, and just
Yeah.
goes down. And like I made a headband, like a crown, and I loved that costume.
Yeah.
But the shorts I made for underneath fell apart the day of. But I
Oh.
was done with the convention, so it was fine.
Yeah.
And then in storage, the crown fell apart because it was made out of like wire and beads. And you
Oh.
know, with beads, things just boop, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
their beads are everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes I'm sure that there are ways that I could have done that better, but I only got to wear it so many times.
Mhm.
Anyway, so I hope that it lasts, but things happen.
Yeah.
It's not perfect. I don't want to be wasteful,
Mhm.
by no means. But is it wasteful if I'm keeping it
Yeah. Yeah. You're like for a second
if it's
time or a
in my
third time.
closet?
Yeah. Yeah. It's there. Like it's now a new art installation or, one of the displays that you
Yeah.
have behind.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Like one day when I have a big house and I can afford a bunch of mannequins,
Mhm.
it's going on the mannequin.
Yes. Yes. People will see this, I promise.
Yes, exactly.
Imagine like at the front entrance as people come in, there's just like a line of mannequins and you're like, everyone must see this. I have made
Yeah,
this.
that's my future.
But I again, like it's because you've put so much work in this and you want to display it. Just like any other form of art. Like if I painted a picture, I'd want to put it on the wall. Right? As
Mhm.
you've created a cosplay, you want to show it and share it with others and allow it to exist within your space. It's something beautiful and expressive of you.
Mhm. I would love to be able to like to do that.
Mhm.
It stinks to be in the confines of an apartment that doesn't allow that much space, but
Yeah.
I would love to be able to, even if it's a picture,
Mm.
having something to show for the things I've created. I think I always seek to be able to have that feeling of being proud of what I made at the end of the day.
Mhm. That's fair. And that's such an important part of creating something that we're proud of.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break. But when we come back, of course, we're going to have the newest updates with the Get Ready With Me. But I also want to talk about, okay, what does it mean for you to be a proud cosplayer, to be a part of this community and an influencer within this space as you really have a chance to help create it and welcome new people into this space? All
I'm
right.
down.
Perfect. All right, friends. 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere unless you got to go to the bathroom and get a water, but then come back. All right. We'll see you all soon. Okay, friends, we are returning. We are coming back from our wonderful break that we've taken. Outfit now donned. Tell us a little bit about what you're wearing this evening, Zelda.
Okay. So, what I am wearing today, I am wearing thrift shops chic. This weird thing that I got for a Halloween costume years ago at a thrift shop.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is, don't know where it's from, but it's weird and I loved it, so I bought it. So it looks very tree-like, and
Mhm.
Koroks from Legend of Zelda are very tree-like,
Yes.
and so I got it and it fit. The shirt I got, it's kind of corset-like. It's not corset like for realsies, but
Yeah.
corset vibes. I got it from Rue 21 in the clearance section for like $10, and I'm like, I'm winning today.
Yes.
And then some like dress pants I think I got from TJ Maxx that double as my cosplay wearing pants if I need to be. I mean,
Perfect.
I think anything can double as cosplay clothes, to be honest.
That's true. That's true. If it's like, oh, these are my normal clothes, they're also my cosplay clothes.
Yes, yes. All of yeah,
We are
exactly.
resourceful.
We have to be in this
Yeah,
economy.
right, right. I feel like that phrase we could have been saying all day today. And
In
this
this
economy?
economy.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's true, all right? Because so many times when I hear like of cosplay material, like already like you want more brushes, you've got different outfits, you got to buy paper and whatever, like all these random different things to make it work, like turning necklaces and pendants into looking like buttons or
Mhm.
icons, or even last time we heard like taking googly eyes and making them look like rivets, right? But
Oh my god,
right?
yes.
You have to learn and still buy all of these things so that way even if you're using cheap things, there's still a lot of things that you have to
They
use.
accumulate. At least, like, a lot
Mhm.
of those things end up being useful for other reasons.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why let me think. What have I bought? I buy clay. I was like, "Oh, I wanna do clay because I see these artists online using clay, and it looks amazing, when they make, coasters out of clay, when they make art out of clay, I wanna do that." And I
Mm,
never end up doing that because that's not, like, my real passion. It's just
yeah.
something that I was like, "I could do that," and then I don't.
Yeah.
But I end up using that as like putting that over beads and then painting that and then making
Ooh.
them look in like something completely new, making
Yeah.
them into an accessory instead.
Mhm.
You got to repurpose the
Yeah.
things that you do finally decide to buy, because we have to make purchases every once in a while.
Yeah. How do I evolve this stuff? But that's such an important take beyond just cosplaying. Like when we see all the things that we've collected, how do I continue to allow this to be my life? How do I repurpose this so it fits where I am now at this point?
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. I find that like a lot of the things that are very helpful are like uh for example, so the mask that I made for this costume was made out of craft foam. Craft foam
Ah.
that I glued together three pieces of. There's one piece, two piece, and then one to cover up the line in between. Um, and I glued them together very carefully. And then I decided to like there's a little I didn't want the little border in between to show. So I took one ply of toilet paper and just glued that on top and then let that solidify and then I painted that. And so you can't tell there's a seam there
I'm sorry.
anymore.
You use toilet paper? That's brilliant.
Thank you.
I
But
I
because
never
I
would have
needed
even
something
thought of that.
thin. I
Yeah.
needed something thin that would let me fade it out so that
Yes.
you can't tell that there's paper there because that would
Yes.
defeat the purpose of what I was doing. So I used toilet paper. I tried to do it on this side, but I did not take my time on it. So that you
That
just
doesn't matter behind. I
you never see that.
I don't know why, but like I think I'm just baffled. So sorry if you just like all of a sudden see me stunned for a moment because I think
No.
there are certain things in our brains we put things in categories so
Mhm.
often. And for my brain, I'm like, toilet paper's for one thing. Like, I would have been like, I got to go out and buy tissue paper for this, which would have been another expense. And then I'd have a bunch of tissue paper later that I don't need. And I would have to try to store and try to remember when I do actually need it, where I found it. And to use something, you're like, you know what? I've got something here in my house.
It'll work. It'll do the job.
I just, it would have gone over my head. It's a smart choice. I'm sorry.
Right. It's affordable too. That's what I
Yes.
strive for. So, like, a lot of the stuff on here are just repurposed things. I bought the foam for something else, and I just
Mhm.
kept it. I bought this rope for my It Takes Two May cosplay, and
Yes.
then when you buy rope, you buy it by like a whole bundle. It's a bunch of rope that's just
Hmm.
put together. But I was like, I can just use this rope for this.
Yeah.
I use the same type of rope to make a mask, like to
Hmm.
be able to protect myself from,
Oh.
the I forget all the fun words that we call it now,
Oh,
but
yes. The sickness. We'll
the
just say it. The
the
panorama.
sickness, the
Yeah.
panorama. Exactly. So with the panorama, I made using scrap fabric and then like a rope so that it's just cool vibes. It's still a mask,
Yes.
but it has, it's a little zesty. So with this, it's a lot of repurposed material, things I already owned, and
Hmm.
then paints that I already owned because I like painting, and
Yeah.
then just, you make what you got, and then I
Hmm.
put it on my head,
Yes.
you know? And
Yes.
then you go to Spirit Halloween and buy this for $5.
I love it. I think this
You
is
know?
just brilliant. I first of all, also I'm glad you brought up May. I've been following you for, of course, longer than that. Like we've known each other now and been following on Instagram for years.
Like we've been around in the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
circles.
Yeah. And so I've always been liking and following, but I remember when you did the May from It Takes Two. It's kind of like when you go to an art gallery and you look at a piece, you're like, oh, that's you just fall in love with the piece. Like you've always appreciated the artist, but then when you saw him, you're like, oh my God. When I saw that, I was like, that is amazing. Like the way you nailed the textures in May,
Thank
the yarn hair, the softness of her clothes. I was like, that's exactly her. I lost my mind a little bit. I was showing anyone and everyone because
Thank you.
I thought it was so brilliantly done, and I loved. I mean, there's always like the looks and the silhouettes and the shapes that I see a lot of cosplayers doing, but I thought
Mhm.
you also brought in the right choice of the color palette and the
Yes.
textures. And I was like,
Yes.
and because It Takes Two is such a uniquely textured game, like it's fun and they play around with it a lot.
It's so important. That's
Yes.
the whole, like, motif of the game, and I felt like, with the yarn hair, she had
Hmm.
really, really cute yarn hair that was completely different, but the reason I
Yeah.
chose her was because her yarn hair was blue, and
Yes.
usually my hair is far more blue than this,
Hmm.
but when my
Yeah,
hair
I get
is
that.
blue, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. When my hair is full blue, I'm like, May is me. I
Yeah.
relate to her so hard, and I never get to see blue-haired characters like besides like Marge Simpson, which is not a fun cosplay. I
No.
mean, we can make it fun, but like, but
And then the
her
full
seeing
yellow body
her,
paint, like,
it's not a vibe.
no.
But being a wooden doll with all those textures, so I loved her design in all, and I was like, I could do
Mhm.
something like that. And that was one of those things that it didn't go exactly how I wanted it to, also. Because so at first, what
The
I
look of
thought I would
shock
do,
and disbelief on my face.
because I made the wig. I made the
Yeah.
wig by hand. Like I bought a wig cap,
Hmm.
and then each little thing on that wig was done was placed with purpose. So when I made that wig initially, I had thought, okay, maybe I could do like mixed textures where I do yarn, but I also do yarn hair that you sew in hair that
Hmm.
I bought on Amazon.
Hmm.
And I tried to do that one, and it just didn't work out. The sew in hair made the whole head bulky. It
Oh.
was so heavy. I could not tie it up. And I'm like, wow, I got this far and I have to start like I had to take it all apart. Just had to take it all
Yeah.
off carefully, not rip the wig cap and start all over again. And instead sat there and crocheted over and over again, like line by line, each strand crochet, and then sew it on, crochet, sew it on, crochet, sew it on, and then pray that it bundles up nicely into that ball on the top of her head.
I feel tired for you
My
as you tell
wrists
that
were
story.
wrecked.
Yeah. Well, I committed to this. We can't stop now.
We can't stop. We can't. I only had so much time because I'm a victim of the crunch. I
Yes.
can't help it.
Yes.
I can't.
Now, I want to answer this because O'Reilly had noted, like, how long did this take? How long did it take to do the May It Takes Two cosplay? How many hours do you think you put into this? Because
Oh,
I
so
loved it. I thought it was like, wow, you made it look so easy and flawless. I would have never guessed you had to start over with the wig.
So the wig was the most difficult part
Hmm.
because the shirt I bought on sale at Forever 21. It was a dress. It was this whole like long sleeve and then long down to the your ankles dress, practically your ankles. But and I got it on sale. It ended up being so much cheaper than I thought it was going to be. And so I I cut corners with things like that. I had to sew. I sewed two jeans together to be able to make her jeans. Like I cut them and then
Hmm.
I sewed them back together so that they had the different colors for
Hmm.
each one.
Yeah.
And the those were easier than the wig. And what happens is I start my year, like when the next year passes,
Hmm.
then I'm aware PAX East is coming.
Yeah.
PAX East is in the spring, like
Yes.
near. It could be between February, March, April,
Okay.
somewhere on there. So by from January, I have to work until then. So it'll take me a few months. But for May's wig, it took a lot of nights of me crocheting. So it could take, I don't know, I probably put too many hours into that. To just like an
Yeah.
ungodly amount of hours. I probably could have asked for help, but
My wrist hurts. I am
but
upset, but here we go.
could you sew just one strand for me, please?
Yes. Yes.
I one more strand, I will lose my mind.
That's where you wish you could tag team someone else and like, okay, just
Yes,
rinse and repeat of this process just around this whole section here. Thank you.
please, thank you. But yeah, so it took hours, hours. Oh yeah, Riley, you said Riley earlier.
Yeah.
Orderly. That's
Orly.
orderly.
Apologies. Thank you. But yes,
We
we want
love
to
Orly in this
yes,
house.
we want to
But yeah.
address everyone correctly. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So for this cosplay, right? We've got the beautiful mask, we've got the thought out outfits that we're going through, the pretty makeup. Why did you choose this one, right? I think that's a process like when we choose different cosplays. Why at this point you're like, this is the one I want to bring for the get ready with me. This is the one I want to share tonight.
uh, well, I felt like I've done the May one before.
Right.
I think I wore the May one to last year's get or one it was Tiger Lily's Get Ready With Me,
Hmm.
or I came onto her Spooktacular um Get Ready or stream,
Yes.
and I felt like I've done a lot um that I've been bringing back things I've done a lot lately,
Hmm.
and I felt like the Korok I did not get to wear enough of, and I loved it so much that I felt like it needed more time to shine. I wanted to be it again because
Hmm.
that day that I wore it to a Renaissance fair, and I got to run around and be silly, be myself, and just you know completely embody being silly. Like when I would walk around the area, it was not surprising because of course there's Zelda fans everywhere,
Yeah.
but it was nice when I'd run by somebody and they'd go "Yeah, ha ha!" like at me. Like the reactions of it, it's just it's I like seeing people so excited and so happy about a
Hmm.
costume.
Hmm.
So I think I wanted to feel that again.
Yes.
Feel that connection to this costume because
Hmm.
it didn't have enough time.
Yeah. Give it more life, give it the energy, enjoy that not just you, but others get when they see it, right? Like I love the sound effects, right? But that's like when I see it, like you want to interact. You're like, that's what it pulls for me. It gives me a memory when
Mhm.
I see a cosplayer in a particular outfit like this. So I think that's wonderful. That also makes me think, right? When some people are like, if I go into cosplay, where do I wear my outfits? And I love that you mentioned a Renaissance fair because I honestly, the crossover of like Renaissance also being nerdy and enjoying any kind of cosplay you could possibly create, they'd be like, yeah, bring it in. You don't have to dress only for Renaissance style. Though
Yes.
this one works well, obviously.
Yes, it does.
But where would you suggest like where does cosplay belong? Where do people wear and get to share this?
I mean, conventions, first and foremost.
Hmm.
Conventions are the place to go for wearing costumes and cosplays. A lot of people like to hire cosplayers for like events for their children. I got asked to cosplay at like not local, but someplace in Massachusetts. A they requested that I go there in a costume and record a video for them and show off like their bounce house and arcade and stuff. So I got to do that. So there's a lot of opportunities for cosplayers in that regard. But I think like you could also cosplay in your backyard with your friends and have a tea party. You could cosplay for Halloween. You can have a costume
Mhm.
party and cosplay there. There's you can create your own opportunities if you really want them,
Mhm. Yes.
honestly.
I think
Oh,
that's a smart moment.
also,
Yeah.
I people also create like Facebook events where they're like, let's go to Boston Common
Mhm.
and let's go and dress up like this and just meet up and hang out. Like there was one time I was on a lunch break and I was really excited because somebody made a Facebook event of let's go to this common and scream like Goku. And
Ah, yeah.
yeah, so I put on my Dragon Ball Z purple scarf
Yeah.
and I took my lunch break. I did not eat on that lunch break. Instead, I walked over and I started screaming with strangers.
Okay, I am missing out because I never knew there was an opportunity of stream. Even if okay, so I know obviously Dragon Ball. If you know anime, you've at least heard of Dragon Ball. Even if you're
Yeah.
newer and you're like, I haven't watched the olds, you know of Goku, you know of Screaming. But I would just love the opportunity. Even if they say like, hey, we're all just meeting up and screaming today. I'd be like, I'm in. Like,
It was so good. It was needed.
yes.
Everybody was yelling. The stares from the people in their suits,
Like, what-
so good.
but it's even better because I mean, I would do the random screaming, but the fact that it's Goku, right? So there's some pitch choices and elevations that come from that make it seem like this wasn't just some random people out there screaming. Like, if you don't know anime and you heard that, you're like, did they practice this?
And like it's also the stance too. The
Yeah.
stance is hella involved. Like you have to get low.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to bring your hands up. You
Yeah.
got to go for it. Like
Yes.
it's wild. They do that
Is
or
someone
they
lifting like
do
the spirit bomb up in front of the
that.
group?
Yes, that too. There's also events people do where they're like, let's run like Naruto throughout the
Yes.
park. Like, and that is a whole. That's beautiful. That's a whole thing in itself, and we love that.
I love that. If I need to be invited to these things, I had no idea these
We'll make
wonderful nerd
them.
encounters. Yeah, I'm like, do I just I don't use Facebook anymore. Do I just need to start using Facebook? Be like, hey, if you're in Orlando, it's time for some Naruto
It's time,
running.
it's time for some screaming.
Yeah, time. I should do the screaming. I'm not very good at running. I can't run very far.
I can't run. I
No.
can't run.
Let's stick with what's doable here, okay?
Yes, just yelling. I need
Yeah.
to yell
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it on my lunch break anyway.
But what a great choice of and I like the onus you give on us, right? Because there's so many times like, yeah, I could easily say like, I didn't know these existed. But even if they don't exist in our spaces, how important is it to say start doing them then? Put yourself out there. Even if it's just you and three other people. Well, we're going to be weirdos, but at least there'll be three of us total.
At least we'll have fun. Hey,
Yeah.
we'll have great pictures of the day.
Yes.
We'll have
Yes.
things to show for it, and that's I think the
Mhm.
important part. Like, okay, I could say I did this. Check this off my bucket list.
Mhm.
Did this, and I don't feel any regret for
Yeah.
having missed out on it.
Yes, yes. And I think comes from that is also changing and understanding our expectations. I think when people go into the content creation space, they think I'm going to go in and it's going to be big. Like that has to be successful. If I do something, it has to have a lot of people watching it, and if not, it's not good. And that's not a
Mhm.
great way to weigh success. Like if I wanted to do the Goku screaming, three people showing up would be a great success for our first time. Like, hey, the fact anyone
Yes.
showed up and I even decided to show up is a big deal. For an introvert, the fact I would go outside and scream with other people, right? That's the
Yep.
first success.
It is. It is. I don't know. I feel like having anybody show up, it's awesome. Having a lot of people would be like so cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's the ideal scenario, but honestly, having people that show up for you, even if it's one or two people,
Mhm.
can be the thing that means the most to you at the end of the day. It's like, oh, I didn't have what I wanted to happen, and yet I'm still being supported, still being loved, still being able to be my true and authentic self in front of these people. And I think you're right that that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, I love this. So talk to me about all the accessories, right? And how accessories play a part of completing the cosplay.
Oh, the accessories I think are the best part. I mean,
Mhm.
you take creative liberties with the accessories,
Okay.
to be honest, because a Korok, this woodland creature it's just wood.
Yeah.
They're not going to be glitz and glam.
Yeah.
That's not what they're about.
Yeah.
But I'm about it, so I want to wear it.
Yes.
So I'm taking creative liberties because one, I like my costume, but it's missing vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of my jewelry that I have on are vibes. Like I have a lot of fairy motifs here, a fairy necklace, a flowery fairy necklace here, have a pendant of a clock because it reminds me very much of Zelda. I have a resin flower necklace. I have a dendritic sandstone because I really like crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have this guy that hangs out with me because it's very green, is actual plant fossil. So want to wear that. I have on a flower ring that I got at Forever 21 years ago
Yeah.
that I've had for years that just so
And you
happens to
held on to it,
basically. Yeah, I
reused.
did. That's the hoarder in me,
Yeah.
but I love it so much. And then like just rings and also it's another fairy ring and just the rings I wear every day. Like I love having accessories. I bought this
Yes.
at the Renaissance Fair the day of the event it has also a fairy hanging from it.
You're like, perfect.
So, you know, I
And that's
just
why you had to get it. You're like, it matches. I have to wear
yes,
this.
yes, I
Yes.
have to. Not that there
Yes.
was there were so many options and I was like, the fairy one that has it's mine. Of course it is. But I decided to accessorize because I felt like I don't know,
Yeah.
it needed just a little bit more. I just
Mm-hmm.
needed a little something to catch the eye, and then it's a Korok. I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
close enough.
Yeah.
Or it could be a human embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Exactly.
They jingle. They
Yes.
they they jingle when they walk around. So same. Me too.
Ooh, I think that's actually a really good point when you talk about jingle because sometimes when we think of cosplays, we only think of the visual. But
Mhm.
there's been a rise where I've noticed where more cosplayers are also thinking of like the sounds they make. How do I bring their
Yes.
audio to life? Or when they move, they're supposed to creak and make creaky noises. How do I add
Yes.
that into the mix to make the full experience come to life? Now, I haven't seen anything smelling, though. My good friend Harvey, when he wears his Borderlands long enough also smells right, but that matches the cause. I would tell him that,
No,
Jesus.
thank you.
Right. like it matches, like that's the full experience.
Mhm. Got a lot, at least like sound wise, with
Yes.
characters. Like you'll see the Maraca banana guy walking around. We all know who's coming around the corner. It's
Yeah.
Maraca banana guy.
Yes.
So I find that sound can be really nice. There was one time that
Mm.
I was really brave and I was dressed up as from one of my favorite animes, Nana, and it's the character Nana Osaki, and she
Mm.
is in a band, and so I brought my guitar with me to a convention once, and people asked me to play Wonderwall, which I did not know how to
Of
play.
course they did. Of course.
Of course they did, but they did ask me, but it was fun. It was still fun to have something that like okay, I could try and play a guitar, or I could just sit there with this and pose, and people took pictures, and it was cute,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the sound of things
Yeah.
can be very helpful.
Yeah. So have you
Hmm.
learned Wonderwall since then?
No, I should though. I should. I should.
That's fair. That's fair. One day, I mean, because it's a perfect little meme. Anyway, here's
Yeah.
Wonderwall.
Anyway, right?
Either that or Nickelback's "Look at This Photograph." Yes,
True. That's a
yes,
classic.
it is.
That
Everyone's
one
gonna
I
sing
just love
along.
unironically.
Yeah, I people make fun, but I mean, it's good. It's
It's so good.
yeah,
I love Nickelback.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
don't tell anybody.
yeah. Thank you. It'll just be between you, me,
Yeah,
the chat,
and
and the recording
yeah,
where it
that's our
gets shared out.
secret.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we like Nickelback.
we like it in this house. It's fun.
I think people enjoy loving to hate on Nickelback, but it makes me think of like how easy it is for people to want to share things they don't like anywhere on social
Mhm.
media. It's a weird connecting point where people like to join in, like, yeah, I also don't like this, or yeah, this is a terrible thing, or yeah, they shouldn't
Yep.
be doing that.
Yeah, pineapple on pizza.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's disappointing. Like, yeah, let people love their jams. Uh, or yeah, or jellies,
Or
whatever you
even
pick.
like or jellies.
Mhm.
Or even like, people like to call people cringe. Let
Yes.
people like what they like. Let people do what
Yes.
they want to do as long as if it's not hurting anybody physically. I mean, it could hurt us emotionally a little bit,
A
like
little.
the cringe,
A
but
little.
but
Cringe. A little.
as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's fine.
I am fragile. That would hurt me a little. I think I'm also getting to that age where when I try to do younger generation stuff, I feel inside like this could not come off well. But I'm trying, and I hope that's the part that comes across is like
I always like yes, like if I'm doing a TikTok live, I hope that nobody comes on like, look at this old lady, playing these games, trying to be
yes.
with the inner monologue in my brain,
Yeah.
not helpful.
Yeah.
But we
It's
gotta enjoy what we enjoy.
exactly. Exactly. Same with like pumpkin spice. People are like, ah, pumpkin spice. Do you know what? They love it and it smells great. Okay. You don't have to drink it. No one's forcing you to go around to have to drink it. Enjoy it.
Right.
Let them love it.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
I've never tried pumpkin spice in my life, and I think I need to.
I'm sure it's good. I've never been crazy about the flavor of pumpkin either. Like if you go pumpkin pie, like,
I like pumpkin pie, but
eh.
I don't like squash.
Oh,
Like squash
yeah,
soups?
yeah.
What even? What even?
What even? What are you?
What are you? I don't
Why?
get it.
But I mean, and that's the thing. Like, you know what? As long as somebody likes it, it's their thing.
Yeah, I'm not
Let
gonna
them.
yuck their yum, but
Yeah.
like it's a little. It's just, it's
Just
fine.
a little- a soft judgment. Soft
Yeah,
judgment that we're
yeah.
passing in good
I'll still
nature.
love you though. I'll still
Yes.
love you.
Yes. We can swap things. Like, yeah, you judge me for my pineapple and pizza, and I'll judge you for your squash and soup.
There we go. Make it
Yes.
equal.
Yes. Yes. Mild, nothing major that comes from it. But that's the balance. And sometimes when we
Yes.
don't see the humanity of people when we're behind our keyboards that we lose that.
Mm-hmm. I hope that people are reminded, like on the other side, there's a person there that lives their lives.
Yes.
They have they have their jobs. They have the people they come home to at night. We're all just here trying to get by.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so nice to help lift each other up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Agree.
here we are. Here we are. So let's see. I know we're at a very horizontal look, and most of the time these cosplays are much more vertical. But let's see this full look. How would you bring this to life? And if you need to take off your headphones and just describe this to us, that's okay.
All right. So I'm missing my belt, but I also have a gold belt that usually goes
Ooh.
along with this.
Mm-hmm.
But if I mean, it just you just simply exist. There's not much to it. It's just
Hold on, let me adjust the
I mean,
camera so I don't cut off your head a little bit more. There we go.
hello. I guess the outfit is just embodying being cute. It's just for cute factor. Just
Mm-hmm.
walk around and you're like, "Hi, I'm cute. What's up? Yeah, haha."
Yes.
But yeah, the outfit is pretty much just a lot of accessories,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of just things thrown together that match in color scheme. Like it's close enough. These things are not things that I bought together, but when you put them together, like, oh yes, that color motif, it does do the job. So,
I see the color palette. It
like,
works.
I see what you were going for.
I like that every time you move, we hear the clicky clackies of all the necklaces you're wearing and pendants.
That was on purpose.
Yes. Yes. I like it. I like it.
Definitely not an accident.
But I think you're right. Like when we talk about general color palettes, the idea isn't always with every cosplay that they have to be exact replicas, but that
Right.
they get to be the chance of creative expression as you imagine the character as more of like a humanoid being, right? Like here's what it
Yes.
would look like in this case, or here's what it would look like more glitzy or with crossovers as we bring this into play. Do you have a preference for that of like adding your own flair versus trying to stay more on that purest form?
It depends. I feel like, it could go anywhere. Like, all right, so
Mhm.
recently I cosplayed as Muzan from Demon Slayer. I mentioned it
Yeah.
earlier, but his outfit is actually it's all white. It is a white suit with black accents
Mhm.
versus what I wore was a black suit with white accents. But I did my hair like him. I put on contacts. I did my makeup like him. I was still him regardless of the colors. So
Yeah.
you it you can take your creative expression, especially if you're trying to save money. I think that is absolutely okay. And you know, I, I I can also be a stickler for things. Like I want this to look as close as possible to this character. I want these details, these minute details to be
Mhm.
exactly exact. But sometimes even that doesn't convey well in person because these clothing that were put onto these anime characters or these video game characters are not real.
Yeah.
And so when you actually try and make them,
Yeah.
it's like why does this look like trash, man? I don't get it. But I see like amazing cosplayers that do incredible beadwork. Like they add
Mm.
beading to their outfits that didn't necessarily have beads there.
Yeah.
And it adds a level, like it just levels up the whole costume when they take their own creative expression and
Mhm.
add it in. It shows their skill, shows their commitment, and shows just how much they love the character
Yeah.
versus like, I mean,
Mhm.
anyone can put on the character, but to completely embody the character in their own way,
Yeah.
it's an art form.
I love that because you're taking a character and you're ripping the aesthetic from it out of its context, out of its
Mhm.
engagements and movement that it has, and you're putting it here in this space. So adding your own, like adding the extra beadwork on it, is how you bring that character to life in a new way.
Yes.
To say like, here's where you can interpret this better or more on that end, and also making it actually realistic. Like, here's how I can make this so I can actually walk in it. You know,
Yeah.
that helps. I remember, I can't remember who it was, but it was a cosplayer, and he tweeted out a picture of, I think it was an Overwatch or something. It was a belt. And he's like, "Is this actually easy to or doable to make? Like, I don't understand how the layering of this works."
I mean, sometimes you have to cut corners. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to make it work as best as possible.
Hmm.
And there's not much you can do about it. A lot of May's costume, she has like this weird rope
Hmm.
that comes around her body and wraps around. And then where does it go? Like it looks like it's just one continuous thing.
Yeah.
But when you actually go to make it, it's not possible like that. Like how do I glue rope? How do
Of
I
course.
make rope stick to itself so that it looks exactly like how her it sometimes it's just not possible and you have to
Yeah.
do the best you can do.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. They didn't.
Like they lied.
They
Where
lied.
did it go?
Unrealistic body
Like
expectations.
how dare
Rope
you?
doesn't work that way in real life.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah,
But it
that's
is.
yeah.
They're working on a different level of aesthetics in a different world with different mechanics than what we
Yes.
have here, right? It's not the
Yes.
same. Like how some like hairstyles, you're like, it defies gravity. Well, yeah, in that anime, it absolutely can. But in real
Yep.
life, you are going to have to use a hell of a lot of hairspray or glue and create
Yes.
some fake, amazing shapes.
It's an amazing like seeing how people do wigs as well is
Mm,
another whole art form in itself. This year, I just started trying to really, really get into wigs, and
mhm,
even that is a task in itself. It's incredible. The amount of
mhm.
hairspray, the amount of got to be glued,
Yeah.
how much blow drying, and how much you have to keep your arms up, how much cutting the hair. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's another part, like, you're like starting here, but you've taken it by
Mhm.
steps, like, right? Initially talking about like sewing, right? And now it's
Yeah.
wigs. And it's like, I think that's a smart choice too, because so many people think, I want to go in and when I first start, I want it to look top tier, amazing, like what I see people
Mhm.
competing, winning first place are doing. It's like, that's a tough first
You
step.
can't, because that's how you burn yourself out
Yeah.
immediately. Because I did not like, when I first started, I was the first cosplay I did was Blair from Soul Eater,
Hmm.
and she has this purple hair that's beautiful,
Yeah.
and it has, like, the little, like, circle
Hmm.
thing, and I just took pipe cleaner, went and folded it, and I did not attach wig to it.
Hmm.
It was just the pipe cleaners.
Yeah.
That's not how one styles a wig. That's not how you do it. But younger me was just like, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that I got to go.
Mhm.
Years later, I did another cosplay where I was Impa from The Legend of Zelda, and I just put her hair up in a ponytail and then was like, okay. And then when I look back at pictures, that's when I was like, wait,
Yeah.
That's not what I wanna do. I want the wig to actually be what the character looks like. It didn't help that that year I also wore tinfoil, but I digress.
Lessons learned. Lessons learned.
Lessons
Yeah.
learned. That year was the year I challenged myself, but that was the year that I dedicated myself to.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Well, and that's when you take big risks and you have big learning opportunities, you also have big growth opportunities, and it's
Yes.
worth it.
That's where it became real.
Mm. Mm. I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. I think it's such a great choice to think like how we continue to grow. Out of the many cosplays that you've done, which one are you most proud of that you're like, listen, this is a really champion piece to say, look at the progress that I've made over the years. Maybe it's not even your most well made one, but one that you're incredibly proud of that represents what you've put
Mhm.
into this.
I think the one I talked about earlier was Sothis, the blue
Hmm.
dress. When I made her, I had gotten a mannequin for Christmas. My
Yeah.
dad bought me one, and I would use that mannequin to drape the fabrics over and kind of understand where I needed to cut, where I needed to put things together, where I needed to like and her design is so specific because she had like a cutout. She had a choker type of fabric here, but it was connected to a top that went out to the shoulders.
Hmm.
And then there was a cutout on the chest, but then there was like a black bra that she wore here. And but the rest of the blue fabric went down and like turned into tassels.
Oh.
And so it's so confusing and you have to figure out how do you make this work? How do you make it actually be on your body?
Hmm.
And then she had a big skirt that was like a V, like the skirt went down the belly in like a V shape.
Yeah.
Did I do the V shape? No, but no one cares.
Yeah.
No one knows.
No.
So I did the best I could and like had like that time I tried to use a pattern that looked kind of close. That like,
Yes.
okay, there's a neck here, I can use the neck and then figure out the rest. And I had to figure out how do I cut here? How do I make it so that's the shape that she
Hmm.
has? Do I go for it? And I started to do it little by little instead and go, "Oh, wait, it needs to be bigger. I'm
Yes.
scared to do it bigger." But I had to keep letting myself try, keep letting myself go
Mm.
for it. And it came out beautiful.
Yeah.
I think I did a fantastic job.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of things I learned through that process. Like I took things like this, like similar rope, and I
Yeah.
attached it to a skirt, like sewed it in by hand as much as possible because glue didn't work. And
So
I
much effort.
just it's so much effort. It's so much work to be able to make something you're proud of, but I did it that time. So I'm like, if I could do that,
Yeah.
I could do anything. My
Every
stuff
door
since
is
then
now
has been
open for you.
easier. Yes. Everything else has been a lot more easier ever
Yeah.
since then, but I know that if I tried to tackle something like that again, I'd be able to. I'd cry,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I'd be able
Yeah, but
to.
you can cry and get it done is the idea, right?
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
tears
That's
do
that's
not
my life.
stop you.
That's everything I do in life. I'm
Yes,
crying, but
yes.
I can do it.
Don't mind the tears. That's part of the process, okay?
That's the aesthetic, all right? It's what I'm
Yes.
going for.
Yes, yes. We just need more crying cosplay creators. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yep.
But but again, like I appreciate how you're telling us what you go through, how you challenge yourself, and the growth that you see from it. Because at this part of your cosplay career, right, you are clearly an influential voice within this space. You are welcoming new people and inspiring them to get into the cosplay community. You're setting standards of what cosplay can look like, how we interact, how we create it, how we share it on social media. For you, what are some things that you really hope for the cosplay community as a whole to continue to grow? Areas that you'd like to see can evolve perhaps a little bit
Yeah.
more?
I would love to see the diversity evolve and the acceptance of diversity evolve
Mm,
because there are so many times that I've been on Twitter and I'm scrolling through and people are showing how often they are mistreated. Like any person of color that has done a costume getting responses like, "Oh, that character is white. Why aren't you white?" is so ridiculous. And I think that we need a lot more acceptance and understanding and like and for people to also take a chill pill because it's a character
mhm.
and anybody can be anybody if they want to be. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As I mean, as long as you're doing it respectfully and you're not doing anything that is actually insensitive.
Mhm.
But I think we could have a lot more diversity and a lot more in the future characters that look like us
Yeah.
too. Like I would love to see some curly haired anime characters.
Mhm.
That would be nice. You don't
Yep.
see enough of those, but I
No.
do love when cosplayers put curly hair on characters. When they decide Alex Norimaki, she does incredible cosplay. She did Sonya and she did like brown-haired, like curly-haired Sonya from The Legend of Zelda and it's so pretty and she did a great job. And
Yeah.
I really like seeing people's takes on it that
Mhm.
also introduces aspects of them and their culture.
Yes,
We need
yes.
more of that.
It's more than just making it more beautiful. You're like, I'm adding life and another
Yeah.
story into it that makes it richer.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. Because I find that, we don't have enough of that, across whether it's gaming, where
Mhm.
there's not a lot of curly-haired characters in gaming.
Yeah.
Often I find myself like, "Why is the character creation option so limited when there's so many straight hair options?" I don't get it.
Yeah.
Um,
There
and
are. There's
then
like even when I think Baldur's Gate, there was still
yeah.
significantly way more straight hair options.
Yes, yes. There are a lot of games that I end up just choosing, I'm not playing that. Like, Saints Row Boss Factory, when they did the character creator, I went into it
Mhm.
and was very surprised when Saints Row, of all games, had only 1 or 2 curly hair options,
Oh.
which was very interesting. Or I don't think they even had any. But, I think that having the ability to diversify our characters is really important, and we need more of that and more acceptance of that
Mhm.
for sure.
What a great ownership of the stories and visuals cosplayers have then. Because, I mean, when we think of conventions, when we think of these public spaces where we come to share, it's cosplayers who really have the power and opportunity to help dictate what these characters look like come to life and say, listen, when you
Mhm.
want to see them in real life, here they're gonna bring in real life components, right?
Yes.
They're gonna have curly hair. They're gonna have skin tone that looks like mine because this is the color of my skin tone, right? You
This
know,
is my
like
skin.
this is what I look like, right? Like it's going to have this body shape because that's how my body is, right? Like
Mhm.
there's going to be a new form of acceptance and understanding of how we picture and engage in these characters. What an opportunity that is. And I love that. And I like that you mentioned like it's one that we need more diversity and two that we accept that
Yes.
diversity. That's because they're
To
two different steps.
Yes, they are. They are completely, and I don't know, we need more loud voices,
Mhm.
less loud voices crying out against it and more loud voices saying, "Hey, we this should be more commonplace."
Yes. Yes. Normalizing the experience, seeing that. I
Mhm.
think that's such an important thing. I love that you bring that up. For individuals just on the let's say cusp of thinking like do I want to cosplay? Maybe they've been thinking or do little stuff at Halloween only, right? Where it's socially acceptable in the United States. I don't want to
Mhm.
speak internationally. But on that end, what would you say to individuals who are like just thinking about it? Maybe they've got one from Halloween. They're like, do I want to take this to a con? Sure, maybe it's a store bought one, or it only has some of like the color codings, like it's the right top color and the right bottom color. What you might say to say keep going?
I honestly, I just say do it. Like, I think I wanna say, like, "What have you got to lose?" But at the
Mhm.
same time, I'm like, "Okay, money." The money is always the biggest aspect when it
Yeah.
comes to allowing ourselves to do the things that we wanna do.
Mhm.
But if you're able to, if you have the means to do it, I just say you do it and you go for it, and you have fun doing it, and you don't let perfectionism take over, because, that part can become very toxic to yourself. You won't let yourself have any fun if things have to be just right for you to be able to experience something.
Mhm.
I think that you should go for it in your means and bring to it your personality. If you want to buy your costumes, you can buy your costumes. There are plenty of websites that sell costumes. And then there are plenty of ways that you can get close enough at thrift shops, at regular stores. You can walk around Target in the clearance section and be like, that kind of reminds me of this. There are so many things that you can do to be able to get yourself in this space without having to break the bank and also make yourself happy. Like,
Mhm.
I just think it's worth the shot, and oftentimes it just takes a little bit more creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. What a good take. And a good encouraging step. Like move forward on this end. Find what works for you. And I appreciate again that take of saying, let's be realistic. Budget is going to be a thing for a lot of us, especially as starting out. Like,
Mhm.
this is a new thing for me. How much money can I put into this? Unfortunately.
As much as you feel safe doing
Yeah,
so.
right? That's and
Yes.
that's the hard thing, and talking to ourselves and knowing our budget and knowing what we feel comfortable with and allowing ourselves to be creative, repurposing, items,
Mhm.
finding the toilet paper in our house to make it work for us. Again, I'm just amazed. I think that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I love that. I love when I hear of like random everyday things. I'm like, I never would have thought of that. That is brilliant. Like there's certain things like, yeah, craft, or when I hear of like people using Warbler, like, yeah, but that's meant to be molded and crafted
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
other things like water jugs, toilet paper. Like those were not meant for that. You had to think and look at that and go, I want to see your purpose and I'm going to give you a new
Yeah.
purpose. I think that's
I'm gonna
brilliant.
recycle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Recycling.
I think it's so wonderful. I just, again, I think it showcases for cosplayers how important it is for us to think outside the typical narrative and to
Mhm.
reinvent for what works for you and not what other people tell you it's supposed to
Yes.
do. Mm.
Yes.
We are almost out of time here. And I've loved talking with you, the insights, um, the space that we've got to explore on this end. Where can people continue to follow you, see your creations, hear your voices, engage and interact with you? Give us all of the things that are going on. And what conventions are you going to next? What's next on the docket to see? Where do we get to see you live?
That's a great
Okay,
question. I
as we enter
just
the
saw that.
end.
Yeah. I should be going to PAX East this year. Um, PAX East 2024. We'll see what happens. I heard that the tickets were going to be going on sale on Thursday, I think. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure. So
okay.
that's crazy.
That's soon.
I always go to, it's soon. It's so soon. So expensive.
Okay.
Um, and then Anime Boston is a convention that I also go to. Those two are a week apart. So I'm very excited for that. It's gonna be a great
Okay.
year.
They planned that.
um, yeah, they did, right? But you can find me on all social media as Zeldaandfairies. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all the places that you do social media stuff. I'm probably there. Besides Kick, I'm on Twitch, for sure.
Mhm.
So yeah, Zeldaandfairies on all places.
I love that. Thank you so much again, Zeldin, for coming to join us, sharing your art, sharing your perspective and your experience into this space, because it's important that we talk about it. So much of what we see on social media, besides on Twitch or YouTube, are such short little snippets. Right, a couple sentences alongside a picture, and we form ideas, understandings of people. So giving us this chance to do a quick dive into who you are has been a beautiful experience. And your choice to dedicate your time to connect with us and offer that vulnerability, I cannot thank you enough for that. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun. I'm glad I got to. And it was great talking to you. I loved getting to giggle and,
Yeah.
and be silly too.
Well, that's the balance, right? Like as human beings, we're all of it. We do it all.
Hmm.
We are everything, all the good, the bad, all of it put together. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and begin to wrap up for this evening. Zeldin, again, thank you so much. Friends, make sure if you aren't already following the Pink Pixels, the Gamers channel here on Twitch, please do so. Or if you want to connect more and have great conversations, follow on, of course, our Discord. There's great people that hang out there, and in the Gamers app. There's a lot of great cosplayers over there too that you can connect with and follow and see their great work. Please find spaces that inspire you, that encourage you, that allow you to be the person that you want to be, to carve the path that you want to create, like our friend Zeldin here. So, any final words before we crash this episode?
No, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
All right, perfect. You heard it here, friends. We'll be continuing our cosplayers month into November next week over on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, as I try to remember. Keep, of course, abreast of other issues that we've been talking on for the gamers. You know, the Gamer Awards is coming up soon, and it's going to be an in-person award, which is going to be really exciting. So keep that in mind. Follow on socials. Get ready to nominate your favorite gamers into these spaces. And I will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.